NVIDIA making headlines again this week at the conference, and these four stocks are rising with that company's growth. Joining us today to talk about four names that are rising right alongside NVIDIA is Louis Navellier with Investor Place. Louis, so great to have you back on the show, and really great timing. This week, I feel like every investor is talking about some of the news that came out at that NVIDIA conference this week. So let's just talk about some of the headlines before we get into the four stocks you have for us today.
Well, the big picture is NVIDIA forecasted 100% sales growth for all of 2027. That's going to be led by the Vera Rubin chip, which they're making now, but they're starting to ship out in the fourth quarter. And so Vera Rubin will take over. It's 5 times faster. It's 10 times more energy efficient. So there'll be a lot of upgrading. And this is their second to last chip, and there'll be one more a couple years later. And then after that, they really can't make the chips faster. They're approaching the atomic level in the circuit board. So they are trying to also lead in quantum computing, and they've had quantum cloud contests. So NVIDIA is going to be a leader for a long, long time. And this is a stock that I've written articles on that's a safe hold to the end of the decade. But, we've all made so much money in it, I don't think we can ever sell it.
Yeah, this has been such an incredible growth story, but I think that's what makes the news that came out at the conference this week so interesting. This company is already massive, already one of, if not the biggest stocks out there, and they're already continuing to forecast 100% sales growth. I mean, how much bigger can this company get?
It's unbelievable. It's somebody estimated it's 14% of our GDP. It might be getting higher than that. But for a company of that size, a $5 trillion company, to have accelerating sales and earnings momentum is unheard of. And when it comes to operating margins, they're fat and happy, and that's unheard of. I've always liked monopolistic companies, but this is just unreal. And I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun with the companies who do business with NVIDIA. I have a lot of investments in the data centers, but this conference was well timed. The second half of March is seasonally strong, and this really got the market kicked off on a very strong note for the second half of March.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into some of the sectors that we're also seeing getting that spike in their stock price this week after some of those highlights from the NVIDIA conference. And there's a few different sectors, really a lot of them, and tied to AI in some way, that are already seeing a nice little boost from the news that came out this week.
The best sector that's benefiting from AI is everything that goes into the data centers. It could be air conditioning, it could be water cooling, rack systems. That is the growth in America. The data centers are unbelievable. I'm out in Reno now. They're working on their third valley. There's a valley that used to be a beautiful mountain valley, and it's all data centers now. So they filled it up. So they're going to go take out a third valley. It's just unbelievable what's happening.
All right, let's get on to the list of stocks you have for us today. And I know all four of these names have seen tremendous growth stories over the past year. And that's really your specialty. At Growth Investor, you are looking specifically for companies that are on a good growth trajectory and have the fundamentals and the data to show they're going to continue to grow. We're going to dive into those growth statistics for the stocks we're looking at today. But if you want to find more stocks just like this that are high growth potential, make sure to look into Louis' Growth Investor newsletter. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description to learn more. Louis, let's get started. What's the first stock you have for our viewers today?
Well, Micron technology is unbelievable. It's a company in Boise. There's a lot of money to build even faster RAM chips because RAM gets faster and faster all the time. They may be expanding in Taiwan as well. Their forecast sales and earnings are just off the charts. We hold it under management. We recommend it in our newsletters. We are ecstatic with Micron. It's probably one of the most powerful stocks we own at this time.
Micron is a name that has made a few different lists over the last few months because it's been growing so much. This stock is up almost 350% this year. I think investors look at that and they go, is now really a time to be buying this stock? Can it possibly grow even more than it's grown already? What are your thoughts on this kind of explosive growth story?
Yes, it can continue to grow because it's being increasingly institutionalized. So let me give you some statistics. Their sales next quarter are supposed to be up 138.4%. Their earnings are supposed to be up 254.6%. The analyst community has more than doubled their earnings estimates for the stock in the last 90 days. This stock posted a 20.6% surprise last quarter. And again, they're expanding. So this is a wonderful story. They dominate the fast memory chips that the data centers want. Stock is being increasingly institutionalized, and institutional investors are basically cautious lemmings that kind of move slowly. And what's really propelling the stock higher are higher analyst earnings revisions and just persistent institutional buying pressure. So this stock could be one of the new Magnificent Seven, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the growth here is wild, and thank you for sharing some of those statistics about the growth and the real fundamentals of the company. That's what makes this one so interesting. Before we get on to the next memory name, what makes this unique in the memory space? There's quite a few different stocks that have seen tremendous growth. I think there's going to be some market share for all of them as the demand is crazy high for these stocks. But MU is a little bit different than some of the other memory companies, right?
Yeah, they mostly compete with Samsung. Okay, to be honest with you, Samsung makes memory chips. They make the fastest memory chips, and they ramped up the production. So they're beating Samsung at their own game.
Very good. Well, let's move on to the second stock that you have for us, and this is another impressive growth story this year.
Yeah, I like Seagate Technology a lot. Now, there are other disk drive companies out there done very well, and they're continuing to prosper, but Seagate is my favorite. What I like about them is their sales are supposed to be up about 36% next quarter. Their earnings are supposed to be up over 82%. Again, the analyst community is steadily revising earnings estimates higher for the stock. It has a very good surprise history, very consistent. Again, it's being institutionalized. Memory companies uh, and disk drive companies tend to be low PE companies. So, when they were criticizing the price of AI and what you have to pay, there's a very good reason that the memory related companies are attracting institutional buy pressure. When I look at the forecasts, the P ratios of these companies are still very, very reasonable. The sky's the limit right now because the data center boom is unbelievable.
I do have to talk about the price history on this just a little bit because Seagate is not a new company. It's been around for years. Many people have used their storage systems for their computers, their photo files, whatever it might be. This company's been around, but you look at the stock and you look at the chart, and less than a year ago, really, it wasn't until about April of last year that this stock just started to take off, and it has not stopped since. I mean, it was $63 less than a year ago, which is crazy to think looking at the price action over 400 right now.
Well, what's so fascinating about data centers, there's always a bottleneck. So, well, we're building it, but we're out of air conditioners. So there's always these bottlenecks, and memory became a bottleneck several months ago. And that's why these stocks have taken off because they've just invested in making more memory and they're benefiting from all the institutional accumulation. And they were not grossly overvalued like some other stocks.
Question for Seagate, which would be a similar story potentially for MU as well. We've seen all this explosive growth. We've seen the demand just skyrocket. We see the projected earnings continuing to grow for these companies. But will that stop at some time? Is this an evergreen story that's going to continue to be a part of their companies? Or will that demand dry up once the data centers are built?
Because of the order backlogs are so strong now, 2026 is looking great. But I'm sure by 2027, that earnings momentum may be starting to decelerate for some of these stocks. And so that will be, there will be some profit taking in 2027. But I think as far as this year is concerned, lock and load on these stocks.
I think that's some great advice for investors to keep in mind when you're looking at these names as far as future growth and the timeline to be looking at these names. Let's get into the third stock that you have for us. And this is in a little bit of a different area.
Yeah, this is Sienna. This is a stock that was added to the S&P 500. They deal with the networking in the data centers, and they speed things up with their optical connections and all. But their sales are supposed to be up 33.5%. Their earnings are supposed to be up 247%. We, again, have positive analyst earnings revisions into the stock and a very good surprise history. Now, because this stock is more of a mid cap, it tends to move like a rabbit. It sits, it hops, and it's been hopping lately. But I'm hoping that as it gets increasingly institutionalized, now it's in the S&P 500, that its volatility is going to drop, and that'll just attract more buying pressure.
And clearly looking at the chart that there has been interest in this stock. It's seen a lot of growth too. But this isn't a name that's as familiar as some of the others that we've already talked about. Why is this one not getting as many headlines and the kind of attention as some of the other stocks that are involved in the AI infrastructure build out?
I just think it's because it was more of an optical play. And, not every data center needs a optical upgrade. But that's the big thing. I mean, if you have a data center running at 5 gigahertz when all your neighbors are running at 10, you get this inferiority complex. So that's what the Siennas come in and they speed everything up. And same thing with our homes. When we go from 1 gig to 2.5 gigs, it's not going to run faster unless you get new switches. So they got new switches, new cabling, and just they got to speed it up so they can compete with everybody. But 10 gigs is kind of the standard, although, we in some places we have even faster internet.
Well, let's talk about a potential growth outlook for this one. I know you mentioned some stats already, but does this have maybe a longer term growth story than some of the immediate build out that's happening in the next year or two?
I ride them as long as the fundamentals are there. So when the sales and earnings are there, I like margin expansion. So I like my earnings growing faster than sales. I like the positive analysis revisions. I like the surprises. I'll get off if they can't surprise us big or if the analysts don't keep revising estimates higher. But this one looks awfully good for the next 18 months, to be honest with you.
All right, very good. And it's a name we haven't really covered much on this show. So thanks for bringing that new name to this video for our viewers. All right, let's get on to the last stock that you have for us. And this is another new name for our channel anyway. I don't think we've ever talked about this stock.
Well, this is Ubiquity. It's UI. It's an optical connection company, a networking switch company. They even sell retail devices. So again, if you speed up the internet in your house, you usually have to get faster switches. The old switches are all set at 1 gig. So you can get to 2.5 gig switch, because even if you get all copper your house, your internet will run at 2 gigs. But as soon as you start getting fiber and stuff, you got to go to 5 and 10. And so they make all switches, but most of their business is institutional, and the data center business is a huge business for them. But again, if you want to wire your house and spend a lot of money, I'd be happy to help you.
And the story here is really interesting. And I know that growth is your specialty and you're always looking into up and coming growth stocks. So I have a little bonus question for our viewers today about one of the biggest growth sectors out there. Again, if you want to subscribe to Growth Investor, make sure to scan the QR code or click the link in the description so you can follow along with Louis' perspective on all of the different growth sectors and stocks out there. But let's get into another really big one. I'm curious if any of the names that we've mentioned here today could be involved with quantum computing. That's up and coming. It's not quite commercial yet. But if that actually comes through and quantum computing is more commercialized across the country, could any of these names see the kind of growth catalyst that they saw with AI?
Not really. I think NVIDIA will be the big winner. And again, the reason we'll be going to quantum computing at the end of the century is NVIDIA will not be able to speed up its chips significantly. And so the only way you can speed things up is with quantum computing. These are all very speculative companies. A lot of them have very good sales growth, but no earnings right now. So they are a leap of faith. People are going to be out there buying them and betting on this technology.
I think the question is, we've seen this model of what has bottlenecked with AI. Again, a year ago, we wouldn't have known that those memory companies like Seagate were going to take off the way they did. It'll be interesting to see if quantum computing actually becomes commercial and real, where the bottlenecks might form and which stocks might benefit from some of those companies. But that's a video for another time. Louis, thank you so much for your time today. We so appreciate you sharing the stocks with our viewers today. If you want to learn more about some other AI names that have a strong growth potential, make sure to watch this video here. There are tons of names that are benefiting from the AI build out right now. You don't want to miss them.